I got this cabinet off of Craigslist for $80, and here's a little preview of the materials that I start with. I'm painting the glass panels green just so that you don't see any of the expanding foam underneath. It'll all just be the solid color. I did about 3 coats with some touch-ups, and this is it all dry and laying down ready. Once you have the decor placed, you can start with the expanding foam, which was really fun to use, but the cans ran out much quicker than I thought. Now I'm placing planters that I wrapped with a plastic bag so that I can pull them out once the foam is dry. And this method actually worked really well. I used different sizes from big all the way to really small. This part's really going to depend on what kind of vivarium you're going to want, how many plants, if you're going to have an animal in there. Now I'm adding some climbing branches with silicone. Now that the first side was dry, I was able to flip it over and start with the expanding foam. It's important to visualize where you're going to keep your decor, because once you put it down, you can't really take it back up without getting a bunch of foam on it. Now that it's ready, I'm just going to put the branch down and add in some really small planters for a climbing ivy and finish the top off with the expanding foam. I probably used too much foam on these small ones because I ended up having to carve them out, but it still worked really well. Now I'm going to flip it over, but the trigger broke on the can, so that was really frustrating. I had to hold it kind of funny, but I was still able to use it. By this time I had ran out of planters, so I actually ended up using the caps to the spray cans wrapped in plastic, and this works so well. Very thrifty, I recommend. But all dry now, this is how it looks. Follow up for part 2. This is where we left off. I am now test cutting the foam to kind of see what it comes out like. The goal is to have it as flat as possible so that the silicone can spread on easily. So this is where we're at now. Now that it's all prepped, I can apply the silicone and the substrate. Just applying the silicone as quick as possible so that I can spread it out with my gloves and then press the substrate on. Eventually I have to stand it up so that I can move all the substrate out of the way to continue. Once I finished, I just brushed off any additional with a little paintbrush I had. Now it's time for decor. I got this mushroom from the Reptile Expo, and I got these shelf mushrooms from Amazon, and I'm just testing to see where they should go. Now we're prepping a piece of acrylic to go on the front to prevent the substrate from coming out. It was really easy to just cut and sand. Once it fit properly, I used silicone to secure it on the front and smoothed it out with my gloves. And to make sure it's water sealed, I did the inside and then the outside, and then smoothed them out with my gloves one more time. Now it's time to drill holes in it. We get to start small and then work our way up to a big enough size. Now that everything's dry, I'm going to start building the substrate. I lined the bottom with some plastic just in case it's not watertight, but it really should be. I'm using a bunch of extra lava rock I had for the bottom of the substrate for drainage, and then some horticultural charcoal, and then some cocoa fiber. But the majority of the substrate is going to be this organic peat moss that I got. And then I'm going to top it off with some sphagnum moss and just mix it into the layers. These are all tropical, high humidity plants. I'm really hoping my crested geckos don't kill all the plants. I also poked holes in all the slots that they're going in so that they can drain. And right after I finished, I planted this nerve plant, and the cutest little tiny frog came out of it. Look, there he is. And now everything's planted and it looks amazing. The mushrooms are probably still my favorite part. They're just so unique.